All right, St. Louis, I decided to come on once again on this beautiful Friday. I'm gonna take my time today, St. Louis. Today's a good day. I got a little time to talk. And I think there are some very important things that we have to begin to understand. Most of you would probably understand if I talk about light, I'm talking about watt, 25 watt light bulb, 50 watt light bulb, 100 watts. Most of you know a 100 watt light bulb. In other words, I'm going to break it down so you can understand the power that is required and which you're capable of achieving. Which unfortunately, I don't think we even have a clue as to the necessary power needed in order to be able to see the things that you cannot see. If you take into consideration a 25 watt light bulb, that's not as powerful as a 100 watt, minus 75%, of course. We're going to equate the light with what's on your shoulders, meaning your brain power. However, we're going to look at it from the perspective of horsepower. We're talking about horsepower. So we're thinking of how many watts does it take to be equivalent to 1 horsepower. I think it's about 746 watts. That's a lot of power, considering a 100 watt light bulb. So you need about 7 or so light bulbs to be equivalent to 1 horsepower. Now let's go even deeper than that. We're talking about a Ferrari. One of the fastest Ferraris is somewhere around 970 plus horsepower, which is going to be somewhere around 700 and some odd thousand watts required. We're going somewhere, and 1 watt, as far as the horsepower, is roughly, I'm really not sure, I think it's probably right about 400 it's about 746 watts required for 1 horsepower. So when you're dealing with about 900 plus horsepower based on a Ferrari, you're looking at probably about 700 and some, or I take that back, probably somewhere around about 700 and some thousand watts required. You're probably thinking, where's Walt going with that? I want you all to understand. In other words, don't look at yourself as trying to get the power needed based upon gunpowder, wars, bombs, etc. It's your mind. Your mind must produce the power. Your mind. In other words, as I said before, 1 watt, or I should say 700 plus watts is equivalent to 1 horsepower. So therefore, your mind has the ability to produce that power. Just imagine if your mind was 1 million watts powerful. Your mind would be equivalent, if not better, than a Ferrari with the horsepower of probably right about 960 plus. And that's what we must focus on. We're unable to see because we don't have the power to see. Many of you believe if you go and get your education, you go into college, get your PhD, JD, MD, DD, etc., it's going to help you as it relates to the world, meaning being able to do jobs, etc., maybe get hired because you have the necessary degree in order to get that job. But the question is, what about the power? The power to dwell in this dark place. You need to strengthen your mind. Don't get caught up with trying to get the necessary degrees in order to be able to work in hell, in darkness, which, don't get me wrong, you're going to have to work until you come to the realization that we have the potential and the ability to literally eradicate carbon emissions, fossil fuels, etc. But in order to do that, we have to reach a certain level of mind. Just imagine imagine if 7 billion people in this world all had on their shoulders 1 million watts of power. 1 million watts of power is equivalent to probably about 900 and some horsepower. 1 million watts or better, meaning one of the fastest Ferraris. Unfortunately, we believe that everything is physical. You're not physical. You are literally encoding data and information all around you. And as a result of your power sitting on your shoulders is going to determine your ability to be able to encode at the level in which you need to encode in order to see what you cannot see. That's one of the reasons we're perishing from infirmities and sicknesses and plagues, because we haven't reached the level of mind to know that our minds are so powerful or capable of achieving that power. In other words, we haven't reached that level of intellect. And the reason being is because we, unfortunately, have been led astray. We've been following the blind. Your politicians are blind. Your pastors are blind. They can see as it relates to the world, but they can't go beyond the world because they can't necessarily measure the position and the velocity of what they need to see in order to get out of darkness. So as a result, darkness has become our home. And as a result, we built cemeteries, we built nursing homes, we built everything that was needed to take care of darkness. In other words, because we've come to the realization that we were one day going to die, so as a result, we had to build the things necessary to take care of those that died. We had ceremonies, but we never realized that we had the potential to reach a level of mind that would be able to warp space and time at absolute zero, -273, minus friction and heat. But we never knew that. We depended upon those that came before us, from Copernicus all the way down to Galileo. They talked about that the sun, the planets orbit the sun. There was roughly 8 planets, which the furthest one is Neptune. And also Earth was number 3. Go down to Venus and Mars and Mercury. However, we haven't yet reached a level of understanding to know that everything is sound, everything is vibration, including what they're seeing with those telescopes. It's like when you look through a telescope, before you can look through this telescope, you must encode it as a telescope. Subsequently, you have no hands. You're seeing things from internally, subsequently that shows externally. And as a result, you're outside looking in, but you don't know it. So you're looking for someone outside yourself to save you. And not understanding that a developed mind, reaching that level of mind in which I spoke of based upon watts, the power, once you reach it, you will be able to encode at a level in which you didn't know was capable of being encoded. And as a result, we will tap into that power, and we would literally not have to use coal as we're using it. In other words, in order to come up with gasoline, refineries, etc., and we're putting that in our cars, and we fail to realize is why is it only going so fast? In other words, you're looking at, you can only go so fast in a car, so fast in a plane. You're talking about the Voyager 2 is about 25 to 30,000 miles per hour. However, you still have not the ability to reach the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per hour, which is 300,000 kilometers. We are unfortunately illiterate, and yet we don't know. We're no different than Neanderthals, cavemen. We're no different. We're just one step ahead of them. We're about billions of light years away from the truth, and as a result, this has become our truth. Once we reach a higher level of awareness, rapists and serial killers couldn't work. They couldn't do what they're doing right now because the energy that's using the person couldn't use the person, because we would have lit it up. We wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't have countries fighting countries. We wouldn't have these politicians leading us because we wouldn't need them to lead us. What would they lead us for? And their level of intellect is so far beyond our level of intellect. We would literally warp space and time and reverse the laws of thermodynamics and reverse disease, reverse sin, and we would see the world face to face. Just wanted to come on for a moment. I'm not trying to at all insult anyone, but it's apparent that we wake the hell up in this season and come to understand that we can reach that level of intellect beyond one's ability to understand we were capable. We must also understand, in other words, when they talk about the 4 forces of the universe, from gravity, electromagnetic, to weak, to nuclear strong force, unfortunately, we have been stuck on those 4 forces. Unbeknownst to us, we need to manifest that 5th force, which is the vacuum. Everything is within your mind, and as a result of being able to measure the position and the velocity of an object, subsequently you've now reached the speed of light. And as a result, you will begin to understand that everything that you were taught was unfortunately incomplete. Until next time, shout out to my grandbaby Noah, granddaddy, love your son. Shout out to Winton and Catherine, continue to grind. I'm proud of you out there in Oregon. Shout out to Walter, Zion, Gabe, and Danielle. And shout out to you and your family. I'm not trying to go over your head, but it's imperative that we get to the level of understanding, because if we don't, we're going to continue to bury our relatives, bury our elders. We're going to continue to have pandemics. Nothing will change. But once we reach that level of power that's sitting on top of your shoulders, not a devil in hell could come against such power. Until next time, may God bless you all and have a wonderful weekend. God bless.